and then I will let them in. Hello, everyone.
Hello. I
Hi.
figured I'd say hello real quick before everybody jumped on.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm
Anna,
good.
Sarah.
How are you doing?
Good. It's nice to see you. And the
It's,
green hair. I
I
know.
know. It's nice to see you too.
Always such a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to make it today.
Hello, Elsa, Gita, Jessica, Kate.
Hey, everybody.
Um,
Hello.
Hi, Kate. It's good to see
Hi.
you,
Hey
dear.
there, Shell. Hey there, John. Hey there, Jessica.
Hey, thanks for welcoming me.
Yeah, of course. We're gonna go one more minute because I'm still admitting people. So give me one sec. I cannot do two things at well, I probably could do two things at once, but I don't want to. So hi. Hi, Jason. It's good to see your at least your name. I've missed you. We need to reconnect. Hi, Vanessa. Nikki, it's nice to meet you. We were chit-chatting a little bit on LinkedIn earlier, so I'm glad to see you.
Good
Yes.
morning.
You're able to make it. What's up, Jason?
What's up? How you doing, lady?
It's good to see you. Good to
You
see
look good.
you.
You look great.
Thanks. And I like this. I like more light behind you, in front of you. It's good. Like
Oh, I'm in my
you
wife's office. I can't take credit. I'm in my wife's office. Mine's still kind of dark, has all the things, but yeah.
no problem, John. Mitch, it's a pleasure to see you.
Good to see you.
So, okay, we're gonna get started because I like to make sure that we respect all of our time. So welcome everyone. I am Shanae. It is good to meet all of you. I messaged some of you. I've met some of you before. I'm seeing some of you again for the millionth time, perhaps. So welcome to After the Handshake. We are going, Anitra and I, who I will introduce in just a second, are going to be talking about sort of strategic networking. So what I like to make sure that you know about Fireside Chats is that it is not just any old, this is not a webinar. I do not do death by slides. I was just counting. There are a total of 5 slides in total, and you may or may not see them. I'm going to be very honest with you. Hi, Tasha. And essentially, Anitra and I are going to have a conversation, and we're going to be calling on
Hi,
you.
everyone.
We're going to want to make sure that you participate. This is not a lecture. This is not a master class per se. We're going to want to hear from you. So if I see you nodding, I'm going to be like, yeah, so what you nodding about? Anitra and I have been working colleagues for quite a while, like at least a year, 2 years.
2 years.
2
Yeah.
years. We're at 2 years.
Yeah.
And she's my buddy in Atlanta, and really, she's the best. So I'm gonna say that's my very, very short introduction about it, Anitra, but let me do the real introduction. So Anitra Dean is a networking strategist and fractional COO. She supports women entrepreneurs and small business owners in creating actionable strategies and structures around their business to gain momentum toward their vision. Anitra equips her clients with strategic networking to reduce their networking activities, and so they have a model to expand or scale their business. And really, just the goal is making it all easy, right? We are all really busy. It's hard. It's hard out here. So welcome. Let's all say hi to Anitra. Hi, Anitra.
Hey, y'all. Good afternoon.
Hello,
So glad to
Anitra.
have you here.
Hi.
Nice. Well, thanks, guys. So, all right, Anitra, do you have any words to start with before we dive into our conversation?
No, not just words, just a note of gratitude and just thank you all for coming here this afternoon. I know you all are busy, you're doing amazing, wonderful things with your clients and in your businesses. So glad to have you all here to talk about like systems and networking. So thank you guys for showing up this afternoon.
So Anitra and I have a tendency to gab, so be prepared to like probably have a couple of chuckles while we're here. Okay. So my question to you, Anitra, you're gonna kick us off.
Ha.
What is the difference between networking and business development?
Ooh, that's a great question. So this is something where I find a lot of people like get confused when they or let me say not confused, but when you talk about networking and business development, a lot of people have not ever have heard business development if you've kind of like not been in like the corporate world or like you've been in an organization that talks about business development. So it's a term in essence that helps to differentiate the different types of activities that you're making when you're trying to develop professional, strategic partner relationships with other business owners. And so the difference between networking and business development, everyone kind of hears about networking, but really what networking is, it is having an initial conversation with another business owner to learn whether or not there's synergy between them. It's really that initial conversation, that initial connection. That is really what networking is. Business development are the activities that you're doing to develop a mutually beneficial relationship with that individual who's going to be able to share introductions and opportunities with you to grow your business. So that's the differentiator between networking and business development.
So literally the key word is development. So
Correct.
once you meet somebody in networking, then developing the relationship goes and develops the
Yes.
business.
Yes.
I will say that when I was like working with Anitra to plan this, I was like, oh yeah, I don't think I actually know. So that was definitely a softball conversation, softball question for everybody.
Okay.
So, when I think a lot about business development, it's overwhelming. And
Yeah.
networking can be even more overwhelming. Like, how many of y'all have been networking for what feels like 19 million years and have met so many people?
Yeah, I see your hand, John, and I know you network, honey.
Like, people are like, meeting folks is great. Like, how did I meet? Like I've met many of you, not all of you. And we met networking, but like realities is like networking is tough. And then we develop a relationship, and relationships, even in real life, are like, they can get kind of complicated. And then you add in like, I've never met Jason in person, right? Like, we worked together for over a year, well over a year. And I've never been to New York to see him, right? So like, developing that relationship online adds that additional, little bit of something. I don't know what to call it. Use my mom's word, something. So let's talk a little bit about your avatars. So in this particular case today, we're going to talk more about networking than business development, because business development is a whole other subject that will take the whole hour. And I think I need more slides, to be honest. And we're not going to do that today. So just so you know, the focus is we're networking, and we're wanting, and the key word in this particular instance is strategic networking. So Anitra has a little thing to tell us about for clients versus partners. Can you tell us about those avatars and creating those?
Absolutely. So I think most of us have all talked about client avatars or an ideal client profile or something of that nature of like, or target audience. So all of those kind of terminology, we've kind of heard these kind of interchangeably. And so when it comes to networking, a lot of people will understand who are the clients in essence that you're trying to sell to, that you're trying to get in front of to go ahead and purchase your products or services. But one of the components of networking that I think a lot of business owners miss out is understanding that you also have what we call a referral partner avatar. So the referral partner is the person who is going to send you introductions to people who are clients or send you partners who in essence are in front of the kinds of clients that you're trying to work with. And so that missing piece there, the referral partners, is one of the things where sometimes we may consider in our networking that the clients that we're trying to get in front of are also our partners. And that's not the truth. The client avatars are the people that we're selling to. The referral partners are the people who are introducing us to our partners. And if we confuse those, then the kinds of conversations that we're having are not going to be as effective. Because how many times that you've been on a conversation and next thing you know, they start selling to you? They start bringing out their PowerPoint presentations, their brochures. They start bringing all of that. Yeah, Jessica, I see that. Like they just start bringing out and do a whole presentation for you. Well, they're selling to you as a client, not as a partner. And so when we don't make those distinguishing markers of like who we're actually talking to, we can actually turn people off. And we can actually like cut ourselves off from actually building relationships for people who are in front of the people we're trying to sell to actually make those right connections to us.
Yeah, so if anybody is into a little bit of AI, I use it in my business for a variety of different reasons. If you get stuck on figuring out who might be your best referral partner or like referral person, you can ask like ChatGPT, my business is this. This is what I do. These are my offers. And then it gave me like a really interesting list because a part of it is in some of your networking conversations, people will ask you, right? Like, who are you looking for? And who are you looking for? Right? Like, I didn't realize, I guess, and maybe I did, but I forgot in a better way, is that business lawyers are actually a really good referral source for me. They're not like tippy top, but there's somebody that are a little bit on the like kind of to the left that are useful people introductions to me. So you making sure that doing your best to do a quote unquote, I will call it an audit, of like making sure that you're feeling comfortable about like, oh, who am I meeting? Why am I meeting them? And like what buckets do they go into? Hopefully we'll start to pare down those conversations. But what you said, Anisha, I find really interesting because I did just get pitch slapped recently. And I want to I want to make sure that all of y'all are very aware that you can exactly. And I wanted to reach through the freaking calendar or through the thing, and I was like, oh my God, to the camera. You can end the call. You have if you need my permission, you can end the call. You can be like, oh, this is not what I was looking for. It's not rude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't need to give an excuse, by the way. You can just say, this is not a good fit for me. Thank you. And end the call.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And yeah, and to add some components to that. So a lot of times when I also look at networking, a different definition to look at it is I also look at networking like what I would call like strategic dating, because the goal is that we're trying to go ahead and to develop a relationship. And so I use a lot of like dating analogies with my clients to kind of help to kind of like put things into perspective. So for me, when it comes to like getting pitch slapped, as you talked about, Shanae, for me, it's like literally being on a blind date and literally that person who's starting to sell you, it's almost like they're proposing marriage to you. It's like, oh, I just sat down with this cup of coffee and be like, oh, I love your eyes. I love your hair. It sounds like, that we are the match made in heaven. Why don't we go ahead and like go to Vegas right now and like get married? That's literally how I feel when people are trying to sell me on that first conversation. I'm just like, honey, I don't even know you. Like, I'm just like, you're asking me to go ahead and be in a lifelong commitment with you. And I've literally have only taken 2 sips of my coffee. Okay, this is probably not it. So like a lot of times it's just that we've got to love that, Jason. Like a lot of times we kind of like have to like, push pause on like how fast we're trying to take this relationship because like it's just not there. And so like definitely like, we can be it's perfectly fine to be able to tell someone that it's just not a good fit. And there's a lot of ways to go ahead and do it. And it's okay to be able to say, and I'll use this if you want to borrow this as an example. When I'm on a call and I realize that once after they shared their client and referral partner avatars with me and there's no synergy, I literally will say, I'm so glad that you shared this with me, but based upon who you're trying to serve, I don't really see a fit. I don't really see any synergy between us. And so I really appreciate our time getting to know each other, but I just don't see a fit at this time. I have never had anyone try to go ahead and yell at me, scream at me, do anything, and just sharing that. So and also too, what it also allows you to do is to not waste anybody's time. Exactly, Nikki. Clear communication is respected. Absolutely. You want to be able to be clear, because here's what you don't want to happen is you want to go ahead and continue having dates, in essence, with this person when it's not a good fit. You don't want to do that. So yeah, that's just some additional perspective. And I know we're going to talk about pity dates in a little bit today. That's my little lead into that. But you definitely want to make sure that you're having conversations with people who you actually want to spend time with and develop a long-term relationship with.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going, it really, I think I giggle because I'm immature sometimes when I think about dating, right? Have you been on a date where you were this is we've got to be kidding. You're joking, right? I know I have. Okay. So, and the goal, so the goal is that whenever you're meeting new people, period, doesn't matter if it's personally or for business, that you don't have to think in your head, you've got to be kidding. Or are you serious? Or if you're a sound person, maybe you're that's one of mine. The goal is not to have these running things, use your inner thoughts as a guide for if somebody fits or not.
And two, with that is and I know this may sound a bit different than probably maybe you've been told before, but you can also prevent some of these bad blind dates from happening by establishing before you even schedule the call, or even when someone has introduced you, to get more information before then. So one of the things that I actually established with my partners and my relationships with them is that I ask them before they even send me an email introduction, I'm send me their website, send me their LinkedIn profile. So I can actually review them before they even send me that email to go ahead and have to set up a conversation. And the reason I do that is because, one, I want to respect and honor the person who actually introduced me, of thanking them for even considering me. But then two, I also don't want to waste that other person's time if I'm looking, at their information being yeah, this ain't gonna, I can already tell this ain't gonna work. I know my standards, I know my stuff, I know exactly what, this ain't the one. This is not this ain't the one. So instead of trying to feel we have to just be on conversations just because someone gave them to us, if we actually prevent that piece in the forefront of saying, hey, can you actually send that person so I can kind of check them out before a email is sent, that also helps to kind of create some less stress, as well as to be able to make sure that you're actually meeting with the right people.
Jessica, I saw your raised finger, girl. Tell me more. What was that? What was that?
No, I appreciate Anitra has me on that habit now, which is totally fine. So, coming from one group that I'm in, one networking group, or what we are as a networking group, referral sharing. So you just habitually just get your inbox hey, I saw this person, I thought of you, I'm gonna send you people. But Anitra's actually, send me the information first. I was oh, okay. So I'll do that. Speaking of which, you got a couple I dropped in your inbox already. No worries, take your time. And then, so I've been doing it with other people as well. At least when I talk to them, if I'm meeting them in person, if we're already having a call, I'll say hey, would this be a good connection for you? And giving them a chance, do you want their LinkedIn first, or is it okay if I just send them across? And doing that with people. And so if an email does come out of the blue, it's because I probably already talked to the other people on the phone or something in advance, or we already had a conversation. It's oh, by the way, I saw this person yesterday, I thought of you, would that be a good connection? 99% of the time it is, or at least up until they talk. Maybe something will reveal later, which no one can help. If someone doesn't tell you that their business goal, and I've dealt with that, where it's like I'm collecting an immigration attorney with an immigrant, and then the immigrant's like, well, actually, I'm a citizen. I'm not an immigrant. It's like, what? I just talked to you and you said you want an immigration attorney. It's like, I don't need that. I sell to attorneys. Like, well, I'm sorry that they didn't tell me that they got pitch slapped, if you will. So sometimes it's just, but that also teaches you. So that's where I am in my networking now. And I just appreciate that little wisdom to reach out to people and check the connections. And even in my connection emails, I always send like the LinkedIn and the website in like a whole paragraph with a little one line explaining like, this is why I brought up this person, in case the initial doesn't seem like it makes sense. The conversation that we actually had discussed this other thing. Oh yeah, they're an attorney, but they actually are doing something else completely separate from their career, which is why I actually connected you. So when you go look them up, you understand why.
You're gonna say attorney, but they're really
yeah.
they're,
I know
they're
I know you don't talk to attorneys, but they have a soccer club, and their soccer club is doing a
Right,
party, and they need a caterer.
they're
Like,
a
that's
jazz
why.
dancer, and
Right.
you should know who they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jessica. So there are four types of components. There are four components of networking conversations. What are they?
Yes. So I developed a framework called the Networking Nova Framework. And it's all around like what are the four components of a network conversation. And the first is knowing your ask. So going into every conversation, having an intentional ask prepared for the person you're talking to. The second one is handle objections. And so being able to go ahead and educate your partners on what kinds of objections that they may be that they may encounter, and like how they're able to overcome them. So for example, like, that this person that you needs Shanae's services, but for some reason, like, well, why should I work with Shanae? I already got this. I got Susie Hugh back here, who I already work with. Why should I work with Shanae versus working with you? Well, that's your ability in educating your partners of like helping them to understand why Shanae is the best person for them. And a lot of times, some of our partners, they may get stumped in that. And so it's our job to kind of help them to navigate how to handle those objections, so they're actually sending over introductions that are a good fit. The third is vetting your partners. So again, going back to what we talked about, the client versus referral partners and having those avatars, it is our responsibility to make sure that we understand the strengths and weaknesses of our partners. Okay, so for example, Shanae and we both, in a sense, act as fractional COOs, but we do so in different ways. There are certain things that she has strengths in that I don't have. There are certain things that I do that I have strengths in that she doesn't have. And so it's important for me to understand what her strengths and weaknesses, areas of improvement, all those kinds of things, so that I'm able to go ahead and make the right introductions to her, and she's able to make the right introductions to me. So that's kind of like one component of vetting your partners. And then the last one is called equipping your ambassadors. And so in there, our job is to give our partners and understand the messaging of how they can go ahead and promote us. And the way in which we do that is by creating feedback loops and the way in which we are getting information around the kinds of introductions that we're giving. So for example, if Shanae had sent me an introduction to a potential partner, I'm going to get back to Shanae and say, hey, thank you so much for the introduction. Here's 1, 2, 3 of like what was great about it, where maybe like it wasn't a great fit, and like kind of like what I would recommend for a next step. I would go ahead and give her that information, so she in turn in her next introduction can take that feedback and give me a better or a similar introductions. Likewise, like with her, in that reverse, and I'm giving her an introduction, I want her to go ahead and give me some feedback about how good it was, so then I'm able to go ahead and make the best connections. And so that equipping your ambassadors is really about making sure that like your partners are informed, so that they're able to go ahead and continually make the right kinds of introductions and opportunities that's going to help you grow your business.
Definitely. So let's actually have a discussion about this part, right?
Sure.
Like let's talk, like, and we're gonna do this as a group. So feel free to unmute yourselves. But like when you think about your networking practices as they sit at this point, what's going well? What's not going well? What have you heard that maybe you're gonna try differently? Mitch, John, you guys are both unmuted. So do either of you want to start?
I'll say that part of it to me is Anitra, I love everything you said. And the other part, an aspect to that is it's also where are you in your business? So when I first started, if I had known some of these things, to be clear about what my ask was and handling objections, and what do I make sure that my ambassadors take away and that it's consistent, I probably would have had different conversations when I started this a year ago versus today. And I also may not have spoken to everybody and their mother, brother, sister, and cousin over the last year if I discerned more about who I really need to speak to, who are those the ideal clients or the ideal partners for me. So I think what you said is great, and sometimes it all depends on where you're in your life cycle, and it's very helpful.
Yes, I want to double down on that, Mitch, of bringing around business maturity. That was actually such a fantastic point that I think we all miss, and I think we all sometimes don't give ourselves enough grace.
Yeah.
Because when you start out your business, I remember my first year in business. I mean, I know you guys remember that first year in business. Okay, it was a bit
Which
of
one?
a hot mess.
That's real. That's also a great
Okay. It was a bit of a hot mess.
Yeah.
And so the kinds of asks based on what our services that we're providing is very different from probably where we are now. I just celebrated my 4th year in business this past Monday. And so I know the kinds of asks that I had. Thank y'all. The asks that I had in the beginning of my business is totally different now. So it's so key to remember that. And also to remember that your partners who may have been with you at year 1, who now know you at year 4, that they also, if you're not educating them and updating them about what you're doing, they may still think, oh, are you still doing X, Y, and Z? And you're like, that was 2 years ago. So either one,
Yeah.
I didn't update them, or 2, we haven't talked in 2 years. And so that's kind of the impression that they have. And so that's so important that not just for ourselves that we recognize where we are in our maturity, but also too, our partners also we kind of have to bring them along with us so that they also understand where we are in our maturity and the kinds of asks and things that we get. John.
I'm adding a filter to my contacts right now, because I have like 500 people in my contact database, and in the past, we'll say 60 weeks, I've met with almost 300 of them. So a little bit more than a year. Go back to early 2024, which is when I started First Fractional. The conversations have changed so much, and part of the advantage I had was that I already had a network coming in. So it was going back to my existing network, having conversations around my shift and discussing how that changed the relationship with them. But it was really interesting to do that. It was also very powerful to get people to push me to define myself further. And I try to do that with others. And Anitra, I think one of the challenges that your system faces, and any networking faces, is that not everybody is good at defining who they are and what they do and who they need to meet with. And it's so you kind of end up spending 15 minutes meeting a dentist and just pulling the teeth, right? All right, so what exactly do you do? And just you have to push people sometimes. It's challenging, and this is part of networking, right? This is because you have to kind of end up meeting new people from time to time. You have to just say, or you can't just say, I got my network, I'm good. Because everything changes. We all change, we all grow, we all learn more about ourselves, we all shift in different ways. And so it's how do you maintain those relationships, and where are those relationships?
Yeah, exactly. John, you came up with a couple of good points. And I think that piece too is, talking with someone who, in essence, they're, we call it an elevator pitch, or in a sense, their messaging is very confusing. And so because their messaging is so confusing, it's very difficult for us to figure out, okay, so then who do I introduce you to? And there have been plenty of times where there have been people where I've listened to them say what they're doing 3 times and still be like, okay, what is going on? Granted, that's why I have clients who work with me, because I work with them on helping to clarify that messaging, but even more too, John, it's also our responsibility to get feedback from people. And I think that's why I know it sounds like you were very lucky within your network that you had people to push you to actually
Absolutely.
get clear. Most people don't do that, or don't have people in their network who's going to be honest with them to say, you're unclear.
Yeah.
That's just the fact of it, is that a lot of people don't want to, I think out of a sense that they're trying to be polite, and I think they don't want to offend people, but they don't necessarily want to say, you just told me the same thing 3 times and I have no idea what you just said. Like they don't want to say that to them, when actually, if we actually said or asked some specific questions to them to get that clarity there, then they will be able to go ahead and say, oh, that needs to be a little bit stronger. And so part of our component of being a good partner is being honest with each other. And sometimes being honest with each other is saying, I hear what you just said, but I'm still confused. So then it's on that business owner to then do the work that is their responsibility to get clarity about it and do some internal work to do it themselves, or hire someone to help them to figure it out if they can't figure it out themselves. So I think that's really key, of just, there's some mutual responsibility of ourselves and with our partners to make sure that we're hearing each other so that we're actually able to help each other.
In case, I'm going to pause for just a second. In case I didn't say hello or welcome when you came into the room, I'm just saying hi. So good to see y'all. Elsa, you had something to say.
So yes, you caught me out of guard. But yeah, I was it was nice because I was I just had this question in my mind, and Anitra with the 4 components kind of like answer that question that I was discussing just before with one of my colleagues, and we were talking about the trigger words, right? And how use trigger words to help our partners, our strategic partners, to identify when somebody that they are talking to, they might need our services. So in that way, we help them to help us. So
Yes.
my question was like, what do you wish your strategic partner have or do for you, like kind of like that, like trigger words or something, like it makes your life easier for you to introduce it?
No, that's a great question, Elsa. So part of that comes under equipping your ambassadors. And here's a couple ways in which you do that. Well, and I'm going to start actually with you talking about your trigger words. So I actually have and equipping your ambassadors around giving your partners resources. And so I have several referral partner resources that I give to my partners to make it easy for them to go and refer to me. One of those is actually what I call my client trigger list. And so it is a list. It's like a Canva document that I created, and it's got a link to it, and I updated it throughout the year. And so it's a list of my trigger statements for people to be able to do. So I send that to like my partners. I have a quarterly newsletter that I send out after my conversations with my partners. They get access to that link that they can go ahead and save, so that at any point in time, they're like, oh, I think this is someone for Anitra, they can look at that trigger list to see. So actually providing those lists of triggers to them and look at a document is incredibly helpful, because it's very hard for us to remember what we said to people like in conversations. And so having that document or reference for them to look at makes it very easy for them to be like, yes. And another thing that you can do is have like a 1-pager or a referral partner packet. I've seen this done, and people will have like a website that's specifically for their networking partners, and it has all kinds of information. I've seen people do it in a Google Doc. I have like a 1-pager PDF. I also have a referral partner packet that's several pages that goes into depth about like who my ideal client is, how to make introductions to me. And so I have that link that my partners are able to look at to be able to go ahead and reference at any point in time. Actually, I had a call yesterday with one of my partners, and she's like, and the first thing that she said in there, she's like, Anitra, I literally had an open tab for days with your trigger statements for me to go ahead and think about people who I can introduce you to. So like that, yeah, I was like, that was amazing to hear that. So by providing those kinds of resources of not just verbally stating it, but giving them actual like a document or a resource or a website that they can go to is a component of helping to make that ease to be able to go ahead and solidify those connection points and keeping you top of mind.
Love it. Love it. I love the trigger
That's good.
list. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, I was like,
Awesome.
that's excellent because I need that for how many times have you been asked, like, oh, so what will they say if they need you? Or what will they, like usually they're like whoever you're talking to is like, how do I know somebody will need you? Or like,
Yeah,
what will
what can I listen
hear?
for?
Yeah, what can
Yeah.
I listen for? And you're like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm like, and I know that I have said at least 3 different things to 5 different people. So I probably should just like combine those. I'm sure I can think of a bunch and then just add to them as I go.
And I kind of have a tool on that. So in my digital shop, I have a 1-pager Canva template that is there that you can create if you don't have a 1-pager, and you can manipulate it that if you wanted to put like trigger statements on that document, you can do that too. So Elsa or anyone else in the room, if you're looking for something like that, make sure to reach out to me so I can send you the link to that piece to go ahead and look at. And then I'm in the process, it's in development, is actually creating like one that's specifically, thanks Claudia, that's specifically for client triggers, like a client trigger template thing. So it's in the works right now for me to create that in my digital shop. So, but in the meantime, I do have a 1-pager, and one part of that template is specifically for referral partners, and you can manipulate that template to go ahead and add your triggers, on that particular document if you guys are looking for that kind of resource for yourself.
So we should get to my favorite part of the conversation because, I'm not a networker. I've been learning as I go, for sure. So if you guys like, y'all should know Anitra and meet her if you haven't met her before. This is the thing. So I'm doing a presentation next week in Louisville, Kentucky. Crazy. So y'all probably know that I'm in Mexico right now. So I'm flying to Louisville so I can do this presentation. And I was like, I'm supposed to meet all of these people who are going to be in front of me, and I don't know how to do that. And like, there needs to be a system behind meeting, there's supposed to be like 200 attendees. And I'm like, I'm going to shake hands with probably at least 50. How do I not make myself crazy? So thank you, Jason. You're the best. Y'all will all be on the email list. You will hear all about my travels or follow me on LinkedIn. One way or another, you will hear about my travels. It's going to be fascinating. And so I went to Anitra really talking about how to make this a networking opportunity like this, right? This is exactly my ICP, right? So don't you love it when you're like, I'm going to go to this networking opportunity and everybody is a potential client, right? Like I'm walking into a place where literally every person there is a really great client, a potential client. So I want to be able to meet as many people as I possibly can so I can close them eventually, right? Like it might not be tomorrow, but after, doing the thing. So working with Anitra, that was a part of my work. But what I do have on lock and what I do have, because of course, is I have the system behind it. I didn't quite have the strategy, and I do have it now. Thank you, Anitra. But so there's my glowing recommendation. So if y'all haven't talked through your networking strategy and need some help, Anitra Dean is here for you. Then you also need there's a set of things that needs to be happening on your background. So do you want to start, Anitra, and talk about those 3 main components?
Yes, absolutely. So for me, there are 3 operational systems that make up what I call your networking system. And those 3 components is your calendar, your inbox, and your CRM. All of those systems, in essence, work together in the way in which we communicate, we keep in touch, we stay top of mind, and being able to track as well as to be able to communicate with our partners. And I found that when we have all of those 3 things that operate together, as well as when we set up workflows that are either automated, semi-automated, or delegated, we're able to move things forward. Because a lot of times, like what will happen is that we get a lot of invitations, we have all these meetings, but then 6 weeks later, we're trying to figure out like, okay, like when was the last time I met with that person? And then like what happened in that conversation with that person? Like, and if we don't have a place to like store that information, things kind of dropped off. Or like we know that someone sent us their client trigger list, but we're like, oh, where is that in my like 500 unread emails in my inbox? And I don't really use labels or folders. And so I'm trying to like, sift through all of these things to find that. And so when we don't have an organization, things get lost or we miss things. And even too, if we don't have like a tracking system, like a CRM or a contract management system, we're not able to see kind of like, well, when was the last time that I touched base? And then two, like, what was the last thing that we actually talked about? Because the worst thing that we feel is that like we invite someone to like, go to some type of webinar, or we invite someone to do something, and then like we send the exact same email to them because we forgot that we actually sent it to them before. Like, or like, like we have those moments where we think that we've done something, but we can't remember. And then we ended up doubling it. And then that person is like, did you just send me that email on Monday? Like, why am I getting this other email from you? Like what's happening here? And then unfortunately, it makes us look like we're disorganized and that we don't know what we're doing. So by having these 3 systems organized in place, and that we have workflows that is helping them to all work together, it allows us to be a lot more effective as well as efficient in being able to go ahead and like manage the conversations and the relationships that we're having.
Okay, so let's talk about your CRM. I'm going to start because Nikki, you have a great question. I'm going to tie in the answer as well. So Nikki, if you're not looking in the chat, Nikki asked, I would be interested to know what CRMs that everyone is using. So if you want to shout out your CRM because you love it, or shout out your CRM because you hate it.
Wait, one clarifier there. CRMs are great, but CRMs, just like Anitra just said, one that integrates with your email and includes workflows, that's the key. That's the time saver there. So I'd be interested to know, like, specifically CRMs that integrates with your email and has existing workflows. Key there.
So I thank you for adding that key. So if you have a CRM that you love, John, you have like and if anybody if anybody knows Thomas Howard, like between John and Thomas Howard, I feel like you guys have quite the setup in your background that I'm dying to see. But so John, I'm going to definitely tap into your knowledge in just a second. But CRMs. So Nikki went ahead on the head first and foremost. So ideally, and this is all related to there's lots of CRMs on the market, probably like 9,000 too many. I'm going to be honest. There are a lot of not really great ones. If you have questions on specific ones, I can give you thoughts about it. But the goal for your CRM is that it integrates with your email in some way. So I'm just giving you like a rubric for you to think about. It integrates with your email in some way, since most of us send via email, especially since most of us work online here. Yeah, the majority of us are working online. Or if we are working in person, we do send emails, so everything should be associated. It should integrate with your calendar in some way. Sometimes it's like super integrated, and sometimes it's like not so integrated, but at the very least, it should see your calendar. It should have at least a little bit of a pipeline or a way for you to understand and categorize people. So maybe the pipeline's not completely necessary, but I would like to be able to detail that John is not my client, he's my referral partner. Mm-hmm. So like being able to know and understand the so if you have 1,000 people on your list, you're able to put them apart. And then
multiple pipelines.
Pipelines are really helpful.
Yeah. Like not to interrupt you, Shanae, but like part of it, like within CRMs, is that like there are a lot of project management systems that are out there. For example, I'll say Asana, and some of them will say that like I also act like a CRM. A lot of software out there try to act like they do everything and they don't. Definitely when we're talking about like a CRM, is that it's able to see pipelines of exactly what Shanae says, of clients, but also partners. because both of those things feed off of each other. Because if you don't know which partners are generating money for your business, and that information is a completely separate system, it's going to make things very difficult for you, and you're going to do a whole lot more work to be able to understand like how your partners are actually helping to grow your business. So that's just my last thing. But Shanae, please take it.
Pipelines are ideal, but I also know that pipelines are confusing.
Yeah.
So but really it's more about, can you classify people, and then you can make decisions about how you manage them from there. I would also like to say an ideal is that it brings in, when was the last time you contacted them? So I have on my CRM, I have a way that can show me when was the last contact, 200 days ago, 90 days ago, 2 days ago. That's very helpful when I'm sorting out who is it time to like go and reconnect with or not reconnect with, because those 380-day people will stay 380s and continue to grow. But everything else, so outside of, you want contact information, obviously, but contact information, integrate with your email in some way, your calendar, ideally, be a way for you to classify pipelines, ideally. Those are probably the big ones, big ones. So I will tell you what I use. I use Copper. I love it. It integrates for me. I pay an additional fee to integrate with LinkedIn because I also want to bring in my LinkedIn conversations. I love Copper, but I am making a change next month, and I am moving to something called Folk. It does the same thing, it's just a different price. And I'm willing to make the change.
F-O-L-K. F, how do you spell that, folk?
Folk. Yep. Them folk. F-O-L-K.
Okay.
John, what do you use? I'm dying to know.
So for the type of CRM you're talking about that integrates email, calendar, and has pipeline, I'm very familiar with Pipedrive. So I'll throw Pipedrive in as a CRM of choice. Again, and to Jessica's point, it's really about how you use it, right? Like, probably the best thing you can do in terms of a CRM is determine what your process is first, and then find something that matches your process. Don't go picking a technology because, oh, that looks pretty, and then I'll just adopt my process to that, because that's just going to make you confused, because now you have to change your process.
Yeah.
When you already have a process that works for you, stick with it.
Yeah.
For myself, and the reason that Shanae was getting all googly-eyed about my contacts is that I built my own contacts database in Notion, and I put some automations with it. Like, I have a last met with date that automatically kicks in based on my calendar. I have a last email date sent based on the last time I sent them an email. So one of the things that really helps me a lot is I grade the people that I talk to green, yellow, red, black. And so green, yellow, red, like the priority is green. The green people I want to see the most, the black people I never want to talk to again because they've offended me in some way, or they tried to pitch slap me, or whatever it was. But yeah, so that's my grading system, and that helps me stay on top of people and remind me, oh, I haven't talked to anybody in forever, because I stopped networking because I got too busy with all my clients. Whoops.
I like Notion, but also Notion is one of, like, so essentially there's, Anitra, you use Pipedrive, right?
Yeah, I use Pipedrive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to build off what John said about the process piece, like that right there is everything. And that's exactly what I do with my clients. Before we even talk about technology, we talk about the process. Because if you don't understand how to get from point A to point Z, you're going to bring in a million different things. I literally am working with a client. I have a potential client right now that I'm working with, where we're auditing her entire process, because she's got all these different systems, and they're all, she's got Zaps, and this thing does this, and this thing does this, and this integration here. I mean, like, it almost looks like a spider's web of just all the different little things that's going on there. And so the biggest thing is the process of getting to point A to point Z. Once that's done, It's easy to develop a workflow. It's easy to develop automations. It's easy to figure out how to delegate things to your executive assistant. It's easy to figure out like what integrates with each other. But if you don't understand how to get to point A to point Z, it's always going to feel like a mess. Now, definitely like the system you use is the system that you use is the best one. And so a lot of times the clients that I work with, some of them are still, and I know someone said that, oh, I think Elsa, you said that you're still using a spreadsheet. And again, I don't hate on a spreadsheet, okay? I don't. But I have clients I work with who are still using like notebooks and their business cards to keep track of things. I've had clients who have stuff that's built out into like a HubSpot or something like that. So I worked with people among the gamut. And so a lot of times I literally will start off my clients on a spreadsheet before we even get to a system because we haven't figured out the process yet. So spreadsheets are still king because here's the thing. Even if you start off with a spreadsheet, every CRM system, every legit CRM system works off of the information of a spreadsheet. That's the thing that you can import into any CRM. So don't knock, I'm not against the spreadsheet. It's a great place. And especially if you use it and it makes sense for you, keep on going on. We can figure, and even with Zapier now, there's a lot of ways that you can actually create Zapiers to a Google Sheet and do a lot of really cool things too. So, but the system that you use is the best one.
Amen. So if the spreadsheet is working for you, use the spreadsheet. I know way too many people that dove into HubSpot is an example, and then stopped using it. And I was like, well, that's unhelpful, right? So if you're using your spreadsheet, Claudia, I love that for you. Like keep using it. The goal is that you know exactly who you've met, and if you like, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Remember I told you that there were a person that I have that's like 380 days. I have a grading system that's similar to John's. Mine is not quite as nice, but it says F off, right? Because I knew that I didn't like them, right? So like, if you don't have a grading system of some sort, put that in there. I think that that's a really helpful, that's a very, very helpful little metric so that you know who you're paying attention to, right? Because I can just quickly filter out I have jury still out and F off. Jury still out is I'm not sure I want to talk to you anymore, but like I'll give you one, maybe two really good times. And then there's the other one, which it basically means go fly off a cliff. And that's okay, right? Because we're dating, right? I'm deciding if I want to continue dating with you, to continue using our metaphor, right? And so sometimes you meet bad people and they're not bad because, they just don't work. Okay. So that's if you're whatever CRM that you've chosen, I don't care if it's an Excel sheet or if you decided to use HubSpot or any other, there's lots of ways. This is just a note that use the system that makes sense to you. I would highly recommend that you do not use an ESP. So I saw somebody mention that they're using MailerLite. Don't use that. That is just an email system. That's completely separate. MailerLite is really good at sending emails. They are not good at managing your contacts. That's that. Y'all are great. So but I like to keep us on time. And so let's answer Shell's question, because I saw Nikki, you had a thought about it too. So Shell, are you able to pop off mute and
Yes,
explain?
can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the question that I posed is any input on the different financial arrangements that can be in play for referral relationships. Anything from having just an understanding that you and the other party will just trade, right? No money's trading hands, and ideally you kind of have an equal amount of give and take there. Versus, I'll give you an example. I started going to this networking group online, and there's a portal where there's an expectation that upstream you identify how much percent of prospective deals you are returning to the referral maker as a reward. So I'm just open to any thoughts on what are the different options that are out there, what are pros and cons, etc.
Now, that's an excellent question, Shell. So there's a couple of components to it. And I've asked the question, like, Anisha, should I have some type of referral partner, like, program in my business? And part of it, I said, like, it really depends. The first piece, the number one piece, is that not every industry can take referral fees. So if you're a real estate agent, if you are a financial advisor, there are rules that, in essence, that limit their ability and how they even accept gifts. Like I've sent, like I think a gift card to someone and like, oh, thank you so much, but like I can't accept, kind of anything, more than this amount of money. So like part of it is that sometimes, like based upon your industry, you just can't do it. And so that's kind of where you have to, find other thoughtful ways to show your appreciation that's not necessarily monetary. So that's where you can like send like a thank you card or a really nice email. So there's just some other ways, based upon an industry where like you're just not able to monetarily gift them to do that. So even if, so there's that piece. The other piece that I will say is that, like, if you're doing a referral partner program, the number one thing that I always talk about is that like the program in essence should not infringe upon your profit. So like, yes, having a partner is great, but if you don't necessarily know what the impact of what that profit margin is going to bite into your service, if you do it, like that is something to consider. So based upon the profit margin, if you're doing like a $350, coaching session, okay, like, what is that profit margin? If you're doing it 10%, how much that's going to be versus a $3,500 service. And based upon how much, costs that go into providing that service, it may cut into your costs. So that's just something to consider, is that like just based upon like, the percentage that you may want to get, you need to consider whether or not how it's going to affect your profit margin. So that's something to also consider. I've seen people do referral partners where they may do like a barter. A barter agreement is a little bit different, but this you can do it where, again, there's a percentage, or like sometimes it's you have it where maybe like after a certain number of referrals, you get a specific kickback. They could have access to like specific programs. So there's a lot of different ways in order to slice and dice it. I will say if you have like a revenue share model. So for example, in my business, I have a revenue share model with my clients. And so like it makes it very difficult for me to be able to give like referral partner, like have a referral partner program, because based upon my clients and the kind of revenue share agreements that we have, it would get really, really messy because it's based upon like how much additional revenue I'm helping to grow their business. So a referral partner program doesn't work out. But if you are interested in one, again, there's a lot of ways to do it. But the two main components that I always say, as far as like the decision maker, is profit margin and whether or not your industry can actually do it. And then, considering other ways than what you want to be able to in a sense, share your gratitude for those introductions.
I would say,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would sort of think about this a little at a higher level as well. Is, do I even want to offer my revenue in any way, shape, or form to that person?
Yeah.
So not everybody gets to get on the bus, right, to come with me, right? So, I understand you being a part of a group that's like, hey, and then there's an expectation. Yeah, but I don't even know if I want you to be in I don't know if I want to pay you for the people that you send to me, right? Because if they're like you, right? Because I'm big on, do I like this person? You can tell from my grading system that it matters a lot. So I'm very particular and very, very particular about how do I decide that somebody is able to get into my business. I'm willing to pay for things or pay them to get into my, to change the way that I'm profiting off of my services. It does become a slippery slope, but there is a lot of ways to do it. Also, this is my real fast take because we're almost there. Don't offer it at the very beginning. Don't talk about it. See if you like them first.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
So I want to make sure that we are good on time, because I know most of us have a top of the hour some things, if that might be lunch. So thank you all for coming. I am going to throw, Anitra is delightful and gave us a networking value calculator. So if that is helpful for you, you will see more explanation about it in the email that's coming. There's going to be an email that's sent, and you guys have been fantastic as always. So glad to see you. Take care, be well, stay safe. Happy Wednesday.
Thank
Bye.
you.
And thank you, Anitra.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. It was great having you
Thank
guys
you,
here
Thanks,
guys.
Shanae and
today.
Anitra.
This is
Thanks.
wonderful. Thank
Bye.
you.
Good information.
Bye.
Thank you.